This is the Overachievers podcast for people who want success without the burnout. If your work feels like a constant reaction, responding to what comes in, filling the next slot, chasing the next project, this episode is going to offer a different way of thinking about how you design what you do and how you deliver it. Welcome to the Overachievers podcast with Keith Blakemore Noble. Because success shouldn't cost everything. Hello, welcome back. I'm Keith Blakemore Noble, the Overachievers coach, and this is where we explore what it really means to succeed sustainably, commercially, and in a way that doesn't require you to be constantly running just to stay in place. In the previous episode, we looked at earning without overworking. We looked at the structural ceiling that comes with trading time directly for money, and we looked at what it means to redirect effort toward things that compound rather than just things that produce. Today, we're going to go a step further into the practical territory, because there is a pattern that sits underneath a lot of what we've discussed in this series. Many overachievers are brilliant at doing the work, they're excellent at delivery, but they've never really sat down and deliberately designed the work. Designed what they offer, how they offer it, who they offer it to. Designed what the experience of working with them looks like from the outside. Instead, they've responded to whatever came in, to whoever asked, responded to whatever the last client needed, and over time that responsiveness, which felt like flexibility, felt like being helpful, it felt like doing good work. All that responsiveness has produced something that looks more like a collection of things rather than a coherent offer. That's what we're exploring today, what it means to create value strategically rather than reactively. Before I go on, if you haven't already, do give us a follow, a subscribe, on whatever platform you're listening to. Give us a like, comment, share as well. It's the easiest way to make sure that you don't miss an episode. So here is a distinction that matters a great deal for overachievers specifically. There's activity and there's strategy. Activity is doing things, responding to inquiries, delivering projects, attending meetings, producing work. Activity is necessary. It's the substance of the work. Without it, nothing gets done. Strategy is designing the system in which the activity happens. Deciding what you offer, how it's structured, who it's for, how it's priced, and what a client experiences from the moment they encounter you to the moment the engagement ends. Most overachievers very good at activity. They've spent years developing the skills and the discipline to do the work well. But strategy, the intentional design of how that work is packaged and delivered, that often gets far less attention because it doesn't feel urgent. There's always more activity to attend to, right? And the result is a business or a career that works harder than it needs to. A business or a career that requires more constant effort than it should. Because every engagement is slightly different. Every client requires slightly different things. There's no underlying structure that makes the work easier or more scalable over time. Strategic value creation. Now that's the practice of changing all of this. It's the practice of stepping back from the activity and asking, what am I actually offering? And is that offer designed in a way that serves both my clients and me? That's strategic value creation. That's what we're looking at in this episode. Let me describe a pattern that I have seen many times. Someone provides a valuable service. They're good at it. Their clients get results. Business grows through referrals. And for a while, everything feels fine. But as the business grows, something starts to feel unwieldy. Each new client has slightly different needs. Each engagement takes a slightly different shape. There's no standard process, no consistent starting point, no clear picture of what working with you looks like from the outside. Which means every engagement requires significant setup time. Every client relationship starts from scratch. The person delivering the work is making hundreds of small decisions about scope, decisions about process, decisions about what's included. And all of that compounds into the most enormous amount of cognitive load across the year. To illustrate what I mean, let me tell you about Anna. I worked with Anna, and Anna ran a content communications consultancy. Anna was very talented, very well regarded, fully booked most of the time. Sounds great, right? But Anna was exhausted. And when we looked at why, it wasn't just the volume of the work, it was the variability of it. Almost every client was a bespoke arrangement. Different scope, different deliverables, different rhythms. She was essentially building a custom service from scratch for every single person that she worked with. She never really stopped to ask, what do I actually do? What is the core thing that I deliver? And what does that look like when it's structured clearly? Never stopped to ask. When we worked through all of that together, a clearer picture starts to emerge. There were maybe 2 or 3 things that she did repeatedly that produced the strongest results. Everything else was variation and customization that added complexity without adding proportional value. Structuring those core things, giving them a clear shape, a clear process, a clear price. That changed the economics of her business, not overnight, but meaningfully over the following months. She was doing less different things, but doing them better, more consistently, and with far less overhead for each engagement. Here's something I'd like to invite you to consider. Think about what you currently offer, not in terms of the label or the category, but in terms of what actually happens when someone works with you. Is it clear? Is it consistent? Would 2 different clients describe the experience of working with you in roughly the same way? Or is each engagement shaped primarily by what that particular client asks for, which means you've been designing your service one client at a time, reactively rather than intentionally? Which is it? Now, there's absolutely no judgment here. No judgment in this question. It's all about awareness. And in fact, most people start with the custom approach for each individual client. That's how most people start. Check in to see where you are. No judgment, but it's worth knowing where you currently are so you can be aware of it. Once you have all of that in mind, here's a reframe I would like to offer you. Designing your value is not about rigidity. It is not about forcing every client into the same box. It's not about eliminating the flexibility that good work can sometimes require. Absolutely not. It's about having a structure that makes excellent delivery more reliable and less effortful. This is so that the energy which used to go into figuring out the shape of each engagement, that can go into the quality of what's delivered within it instead. Think of it this way. A good chef doesn't design a brand new menu from scratch for every table. They design an excellent menu, one that reflects their strengths, serves their clients well, and can be delivered consistently to a high standard. Within that menu, There's still room for nuance, for adjustment, for the conversation that makes a guest feel seen. But the structure is there, and the structure, that's what makes the quality sustainable. Same thing applies here. When you design your value intentionally, when you decide what you offer, how it's structured, what it costs, you create something that can be delivered to a high standard repeatedly without requiring a new set of decisions every time. And that consistency has a commercial dimension too. A clear, well-structured offer is much easier for potential clients to understand. It's much easier for them to say yes to. And it's much easier for them to talk about with others, which makes referrals more likely and more useful. Activity fills the diary. Strategy shapes your business. Hey, there's something worth naming about why overachievers often resist this kind of design work. Part of it is the identity dimension, which we have discussed previously. Overachievers tend to take pride in their adaptability, in being able to meet whatever a client needs. And they take pride in their flexibility that comes from being not boxed in. And hey, there is real value in that, absolutely. The ability to read a situation and respond appropriately is a genuine, valuable skill. There is also, on the other hand, a version of that flexibility that's less about serving the client, and if we're honest, more about avoiding the discomfort of committing to a clear position. Of saying, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is what it costs, full stop. That kind of clarity requires a decision. And decisions carry the risk of being wrong, of turning some clients away, of finding out that the offer you've designed isn't what everyone wants. For overachievers who are uncomfortable with that kind of exposure, the reactive model can feel safer because it keeps all of the options open and never quite commits. And commitment, as we've explored in various ways across this series, commitment often runs into the same identities at discomfort as pricing or visibility. The strategic approach requires something more. It requires being willing to say, this is the version of my work that I've thought about most carefully. This is my considered answer to what I do and why it's valuable. That, my friend, that is an act of confidence. And it's one that tends to produce more sustainable commercial results than the alternative. So, what does all of this look like in practice? What does it actually look like? It starts with a simple question. What do I do that produces the most consistent and most significant results for the people I work with? What do I do that produces the most consistent and most significant results for the people I work with? That's the question we start with. Not what do I offer, what actually works? What are the 2 or 3 things that, when you do them well, reliably make a meaningful difference? Once you can identify those things, the next question is, what does it look like when I deliver those things at their best? What is the process? What is the starting point? What does the client experience from beginning to end? That description, as rough as it might be at first, that is the beginning of a designed offer. Something with shape, something which can be communicated clearly, priced appropriately, and delivered consistently. Hey, it's not going to be perfect the first time. That's absolutely fine. The point is to start designing rather than just responding, to shift, even slightly, from activity to strategy. That shift, sustained over time, tends to produce a business that works better for clients and for the person running it. In the next episode, we're going to look at something that sits alongside all of this in a very practical way. We've been talking about value, about positioning, and about commercial growth, but there's a dimension to all of that which most overachievers overlook. The financial outcomes of your business, the revenue, the margins, the patterns in what clients pay and when, that all contains useful information about how well your positioning is working. So, in episode 23, we will take a look at money as a feedback mechanism. What the numbers are actually telling you, how to read them as information rather than verdicts. That's going to be in episode 23, Money as a Feedback System. I think you'll find it useful, and I think you'll find it a practical perspective. That's coming up in the next episode. But for now, here's something to take away from this episode. Think about your work over the last year. The range of things you've delivered, the variety of clients that you've worked with, the shape of the engagements that you have taken on. Think about all of that and ask yourself this. Is there a clear, designed offer underneath all of that? Or has the work largely been shaped by what clients ask for, one at a time? And if it's the second, what would the most intentionally designed version of your work actually look like? If today's episode has resonated with you, I really hope it does. If it has, I'd love it if you take a moment to leave a review or a rating on your favorite platform. It genuinely helps other people to find the show. Share it with someone you think would benefit. And if you haven't already, hit follow or subscribe and give us a like so that you are there for every episode. When you're done, head over to keithbn.link/top, where you can find this episode, where you'll find all of the episodes. You'll find the show notes for this episode, along with some additional resources which will be worth exploring. I'm Keith Blakemore Noble, the Overachievers Coach, and I'll be your guide as we explore a healthier way to succeed. Catch you next time.